And welcome back. You're listening to Our Community. Susie Thomas here. Jesse Ayers is still with us, and we're going to introduce a couple of more guests who've just joined us. David Canfield from Bloomington, Indiana. He is joining us. Also, composer Bill Vollinger, calling from Nyack College in New York, and we'll find out a little bit more about their music. Jesse, there was one more thing taking place, I think, that's very interesting in this conference coming to Malone University in Canton. And tell us a little bit about what else we can expect at the conference.
Okay, during the conference, we're having several lecture/paper presentations/demonstrations. Two of those that I think would be of particular interest to the general public. Saturday, October 10th, 2 p.m. in the Stewart Room, Randall Campus Center. We are having Dr. Sean Okpebholo from Wheaton College in Illinois. His topic is the Holy Spirit and the Negro Spiritual. And included in that will be 3 performances of arrangements, or he calls them reimaginations, that he has done. I have heard these, and they are exquisitely well done. And those will be performed by Dr. Frank Ward, who's at the University of Akron, coming down to join us, and Malone's own Mark Greer, who is on our piano staff, one of our collaborative pianists. So they will be performing. That's Saturday, October 10th at 2 p.m. Immediately following that, at 3:30 p.m., is another lecture by Dr. Kelly Dubel-Brown from Milligan College in East Tennessee, and she will be speaking on Alma Rosé and the Auschwitz Women's Orchestra. I have heard her present this. It is absolutely fascinating. Alma Rosé father was the concertmaster of the Vienna Philharmonic, and her mother was the sister of Gustav Mahler. She was well-known violinist at the time she was arrested by the Gestapo. And so this is that story. It is something you really want to come hear if you can. Both of these.
Amazing, almost like a Schindler's List, except with an orchestra.
Schindler's List Orchestra.
Amazing. All right, well, very exciting. This we're really looking forward to all of this, and now we are so happy to have joining us David Canfield and Bill Vollinger. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And all right, David, I understand that we'll start with you. You have something called the Ragtime After Joplin. I was one of those who had to memorize that music from the Sting and can still play it a little bit. Tell us a little bit about the work that you've put together.
Yes, this Ragtime Sonata After Joplin is in a series of pieces that I call my after pieces, and the reason I call them after is because a lot of composers didn't write for particular instruments, such as the saxophone or trombone or other such instruments, and in this after series, I've attempted to fill in the musical gaps, as it were, writing in the styles of other composers. So this particular piece is a fun piece in the ragtime style of someone like Joplin, and it's written for saxophone and piano, and of course Joplin never wrote anything for saxophone, so I thought, well, saxophonists might enjoy having a piece in that style. So this is a fun piece. In past CFAMC conferences, I've offered a couple of pieces that are very serious works dealing with subjects like abortion and the matter of the process of salvation, and so I thought it would be nice to have a little bit of a change of pace for this work.
Something a little lighter.
Yes, indeed.
And let me add there, that piece will be performed by Craig Carnes on alto saxophone. He is one of our graduates, quite a fine player, and he's now an area music professional with the collaborative pianist Brent Schloniger, who many people in the Canton area have heard Brent play many, many times. He plays quite a bit at the Canton Players Guild, so many people know that name.
And Bill Vollinger joining us from Nyack. What an interesting idea. Your composition is tweets. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sometimes I write aphorisms which I believe are inspired. Things like humility isn't putting yourself down. Humility is putting yourself aside.
Nice.
When I turned 70, I had a shirt made saying this, the meaning of life is not growing old, the meaning of life is growing.
Nice.
So I put some of those the last few years on Twitter, and they're there for our tweets. And I went over a bunch of them and picked out the ones that were, I thought, the strongest and set them to music. Then one of my composition students listened to them and said, well, it's a little too long, so I cut out about 5 of them. And the result is I think, about 10-minute piece, which is a bunch of tweets. And the words are narrated, essentially, very little singing, and I will be the narrator. And the instruments are 4 tom-toms, a flute, and a piano.
Where did you get this idea to take a tweet and put it to music?
Came out of the blue.
You were inspired.
Yes, I think it was a good idea.
Amazing. What's it like? I believe you had something you wanted to say about working with David and with Jesse.
Well, that's a different thought, but I'd very much like to say it. David and Jesse are members of Christian Fellowship of Art Music Composers because I suggested they join. And I years ago heard a piece by Jesse, which is so extraordinarily wonderful, called Jericho. And I kept in touch with him when it was performed, and I persuaded him to join our organization, and now he's organizing this enormous conference, which is a ton of work. So we're very grateful to him for doing this. And David Canfield, I have a good friend who said, I have this friend who has a collection of millions of long-playing records and CDs and everything, and I know him very well. He's also a composer. Why don't you get him to join your group? So I contacted him, and he did that. And he is an excellent composer, seriously, really fine. And in addition, we have a monthly listening page, which I send out of a member's work, an MP3 and a score and program notes as an email. And we try to get people in our group to write a commentary or reply to what they heard in the music. Not too many composers do this, but David Canfield, who's a very busy man and has a lot of performances and things going on in his life, every month he faithfully writes a pithy, longer comment about what the person wrote. And it's not all just flattering either, so which is good. Just flattery is not good. So those two guys are wonderful composers and wonderful people to have in our organization.
And we are speaking right now with Dr. Jesse Ayers, David Canfield, and Bill Vollinger, 3 composers who are part of the Christian Composers, I'll say, network. It's an organization of Christian composers across the United States that are all going to be convening at Malone University. Jesse, remind us of those dates.
October 8th through 10.
And let me throw this out to all of you. This has to be a very gratifying experience. What does it mean to you as a professional, as a composer, to be able to be part of an organization that also has a component of faith involved in it and in your music, and to be able to express your faith through your music?
Let me let Bill Vollinger reply to that. He seems to do those things very much more succinctly than I can. Yeah.
It's wonderful because when we get together, we are Christians of all denominations. Jesus has one church. Catholic, Protestant, Eastern Orthodox, one church. And we agree on certain basic things like I need help, Jesus died for me, he rose again, I believe that I'll go to heaven. A couple of little things, grow in him. But we get together, and sometimes we're with other Christians, but our music is not like most Christians listen to, so the reaction is like, what is this? Or, on the other hand, we're with other classical musicians, and the faith part of it is like, what is this? So here we are with people who have 2 circles that overlap, the faith component, which is the more important one, and also the modern composing component.
Mm-hmm. David, what do you think?
Well, I'm so grateful to Bill several years ago when he let me know of the existence of the Christian Fellowship of Art Music Composers, because I had long wondered if there was an organization or any way of getting in touch with composers who also happen to be Christians. And so when Bill called me, I immediately joined and immediately began my involvement with this organization. And the conferences are so wonderful because it's not just an opportunity to hear really fine music by fellow believers in Christ. It is also an opportunity to fellowship with them, to share prayer requests with them, to just get to know them in the way that we should our Christian brothers and sisters. And so it's just, these conferences have been extraordinarily meaningful and an extraordinary blessing to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward for the first time this year of bringing my wife along with me as well so she can experience some of this wonderful fellowship.
Nice. Jesse, your thoughts too.
Bill summed it up nicely. Mark Hidgley, that founded the organization, mentioned last year was our 20th anniversary conference, and so he was reviewing the 20 years, and he expressly said he started the organization because he found he had friends that understood the faith component but did not understand the classical music, And then he had friends that understood the classical music component and didn't comprehend the faith part. And so there were times where he wanted to speak to somebody particularly about a particular piece, but where he had people he could go to that understood both sides. Bill Vollinger and I talk on the phone from time to time, and on my Rahab piece I mentioned, Bill had an idea for me, knowing I was working on it, and said, hey, you should think about, and I did think about it, and I did do it and put it into the piece.
Very cool. Being that this is a community event where the entire community, this is free, correct?
Yes, all events are free and open to the public. We invite people from the community to come and join us for the concerts, join us for the lectures. The composers, for the question and answer sessions, it is good for the composers because sometimes a question is put to us and we have to think about our piece in an entirely different light than we were when we were creating it. And it puts us on the spot a bit to think, oh, I've not thought about that. Let me come from that angle. So it's good for the audience members to get to talk composers, but it's very good for the composers to get to hear feedback from the audience. So we really would love to have as many people in Canton come join us if you can, October 8th through 10th. We hope to have a website up soon on this, but we don't. But if you call the Malone Music Department, we'll shoot you an email with all these dates in it.
And I would just think, because it's a community event, who would benefit from this? Would this be, you mentioned, because these are Christian composers, is this for the church community alone, or we've got quite a vibrant arts community?
No, anyone in the arts community. Anyone in the arts community. And I'm remiss, something I should have said at the very beginning of the interview, part of this is made possible by a very generous grant from Arts in Stark and also a grant from Valparaiso University. And so we are very appreciative of them, and I did not mean to overlook them. There's just a lot of detail to cover.
No, you were saving that for last.
Anyone interested in the arts is welcome to come. It wouldn't matter if this person is particularly Christian or not, to come and see, well, this is how this artist expresses.
School groups, is there a way
absolutely.
that anyone be able to
school groups,
bring it in?
Just let us know. Well, I don't even... For some venues, it'd be good if we knew ahead of time. If we're expecting 20 or 30 extra for the Stewart room, we'd need extra chairs. But
and how does a person, do we need to call ahead for tickets because it is free? Do you need a head count of some kind?
There are not tickets. A head count would be good for a larger group, and you could call the Malone Music Department at 330-471-8231. And if you don't remember that, just in the phone book, Malone University Music Department, and give us a call for a heads up of we're bringing a school group in, especially for that Saturday night band concert and the Thursday night choral concert, especially. I think area high school and junior high people in their choirs and bands could really benefit from hearing this.
Well, it's just going to be an amazing event, and we are so grateful to Dr. Jesse Ayers from Malone University, to David Canfield from, is it Bloomington, Indiana? Are you from a college as well, David?
I am not currently working with any college except for the Clearnote Pastors College, at which I teach biblical theology and church history.
Awesome. And Bill Vollinger from NIAC, thank you so much for joining us. You've been listening to Our Community.